Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to another episode of Myth Busting Mondays. And today's episode, for the final myth, we are going to be testing if whether or not it's possible if you can predict what church guy is going to turn into when he becomes a special infected. If you like the idea of the last myth, make sure you drop a like and comment down below if you have a myth of your own that you would like to have be featured in the next episode of Myth Busting Mondays. But yeah, guys, I hope you end up enjoying this week's episode of Myth Busting Mondays. Myth: can special infected break into rescue closets? Alrighty, guys, so the very first myth of the episode is going to be submitted in by Tyler. Now, the rescue closets essentially act as a safe space for the game, very similar to the safe room, so that way you don't get spawn killed right away. And I would like to believe that that means that the special infected cannot break into them because they're technically invincible. Just to prove my point, here's a clip where we spawned a tank inside of the door where Nick was in the rescue closet, and half the tank's body is inside and the other's outside, and he's trying to beat the door, but he cannot break it whatsoever. And just to prove this point even further, here's going to be a clip when we got Nick to spawn inside of a porta potty, and when Nick was spawned inside of the porta potty, we did the same thing where we spawned in another tank again, but we also spawned in a charger by accident, and this worked out to our advantage because you can see that in a few seconds here, the tank can kill the charger still. So it's not that the tank was missing the entire time like in the prior clip. He's been hitting it the entire time. It's just that the door and Nick are technically invincible in this stage of the game. It is only upon opening the door that the door immediately can be broken and that Nick can also be injured again. So I believe that this is going to end up being pretty much implied that this myth is going to be busted. This is just so that way you cannot spawn kill people, because if you could, then Left 4 Dead would not nearly be as much fun. Myth: can you kill a tank with stage fireworks? Alrighty, guys, so myth number 2 is going to be submitted in by Vader. So what we are going to be doing is me and the guys are going to be spawning in a couple of tanks, and we are going to shoot them in the head with military snipers, so that way they are basically one shots, and then we are going to end up spawning them on top of the stage, and then activating the stage fireworks to see if they do indeed kill them. Okay, so now we're on the stage, and so is the tank, and the tank is going to be hit with the fireworks, and as you guys can see, he does indeed die, which means that myth number 2 is confirmed. You can kill the tank with stage fireworks. Myth: does a charger charging downhill travel further than a charger charging uphill? Okay, guys, so myth number 3 is going to be submitted in by Zaku. Now, just for clarification's sake, so that way we can end up figuring out what it is exactly that we are trying to achieve with this myth, let me explain. So, Zaku, from what he is asking, is basically wanting to know if Left 4 Dead is realistic in terms of if you end up having gravity work out to your advantage while you're playing as a charger. In other words, would the power of gravity by going downhill versus in a straight line or uphill allow the charger to get a further distance with his charging animation? So Glabersko as a charger, the one I'm looking at right here, is going to be charging uphill from the spot he's currently standing in. From that point, whenever he ends up stopping, Dan is going to stand next to where Glabersko stopped and then charge in the opposite direction. If Dan ends up in the same spot that Glabersko started at, that means that regardless of up or downhill, the charger will only end up having a certain distance traveled. Alright, guys, so here is footage of Glabersko charging uphill. He goes from where he was standing to roughly about the street pole that's next to the tent. Now Dan, from the exact same spot as Glabersko, is going to charge downhill, and when Dan goes downhill, he ends up in the exact same spot that Glabersko did when he started, which means that myth number 3 here is busted. Myth: can you kill more than one special infected with one melee swing? Alrighty, guys, so myth number 4 is going to be submitted in by Dan, and this one is really straightforward. We're going to be spawning in 2 special infected, specifically the hunter in this case, and we're going to swing a melee weapon to see if both of them will be one-shot, because technically in the hunter's case, if we did not one-shot them, we would miss because they're a one-hit kill with a melee weapon. Okay, guys, so here are 2 hunters. I'm going to swing my axe, and as you guys can see, I killed the both of them, which means that the 4th myth of today's episode is confirmed. You can indeed kill multiple special infected with one melee weapon swing. Alrighty, guys, so now we're moving on to the final myth of the episode, and once again is going to be, can you predict what church guy is going to turn into? So we're going to be moving over to the final myth now and seeing if whether or not it's confirmed, plausible, or busted. Myth: Can you predict what Church Guy will turn into? Alrighty guys, so the final myth of the episode is going to be submitted in by Glabursko. Now, this myth is something that is kind of hard to test, but we did have a reasonable idea of how this could be tested. We are going to be seeing if whether or not that Church Guy's special infected variant is going to depend on game mode difficulty. So this is what we decided to do. We decided that we're going to play 3 games on easy mode, normal mode, advanced mode, and expert mode. Now, Church Guy can only turn to 3 special infected, the Boomer, the Smoker, and the Hunter, because they did not update him to make him become a Charger or a Jockey when they ported this over to Left 4 Dead 2. Which means for our guessing, we have a 1 in 3 chance of being correct. Now, to make this simplistic, we decided to have it where for every single game, we just predicted a Hunter, and then we just tried to see how many times that we were right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be showing you guys a mini montage of every single test that we had and what was the following results. So for our first attempt on easy mode, we ended up getting a Boomer. For our second attempt on easy mode, we once again did indeed get a Boomer. And then for our third and final attempt on easy mode, when we ended up opening up the door, Church Guy turned into a Smoker. Then for our first attempt at normal mode, when we opened up the door, Church Guy was a Hunter this time, meaning that this was the first time that we were correct. Then for our second attempt at normal mode, when we opened the door, it was a Smoker. Then for the third attempt at normal mode, when we opened the door once again, it was a Boomer. First attempt on advanced mode was a Smoker. The second attempt that was on advanced mode, when we opened the door, this time it was a Boomer once again. The last time that we played on advanced mode, this was a Hunter once again, so that's the second time that we were correct. Now moving on to our first attempt at expert mode, this was a Smoker this time. For the second attempt on expert and the second to last, this one was a Hunter, so we were right again this time. This is the third time we were correct. And then finally, for our very last attempt at expert and also just last attempt in general, when we opened the door this time, we ended up getting a Boomer for our final result. So let's talk about all of our results. Let's do a quick recap. Easy mode attempt number 1, the guess was a Hunter, the result was a Boomer. On easy mode attempt number 2, the guess was a Hunter, the result was a Boomer. On easy mode attempt number 3, the guess was a Hunter, the result was a Smoker. The first attempt on normal mode, the guess was a Hunter, the result was a Hunter. On normal mode attempt number 2, the guess was a Hunter, the result was a Smoker. Third attempt on normal mode, guess was a Hunter, result was a Boomer. First attempt on advanced mode, guess was a Hunter, result was a Smoker. The second attempt on advanced mode, the guess was a Hunter, the result was a Boomer. The third attempt on advanced, the guess was a Hunter, the result was a Hunter. The first attempt at expert, the guess was a Hunter, and then the result was a Smoker. The second attempt at expert, the guess was a Hunter, and the result was a Hunter. And then the final attempt, or in this case, the last one on expert, the guess was a Hunter and the result was a Boomer. That means out of 12 games all in a row, with 3 of them being on each game mode difficulty, we were only ever right about our guess 3 whole times. And not only that, it's actually pretty even in terms of which special infected that Church Guy was going to turn into, because only with the exception of the first 2 attempts on easy mode, where he was a Boomer back-to-back, every single attempt afterward was one of each special infected. Because normal through expert, we got 1 where he was a Smoker, 1 where he was a Hunter, and 1 where he was a Boomer. Meaning that we had 5 Boomer results, 4 Smoker results, and 3 Hunter results. Now I also want to put something at the end here, which was Glabursko and Dan's idea. They said that there might be the possibility that you can guess what he'll turn into based off of his dialogue, but I'm not really a big fan of that theory because Church Guy's dialogue was made with the intention of confusing the player, I believe, in my personal opinion, because he rotates through all the special infected sounds. You could say that he sounds like a Hunter at one moment, and then all of a sudden you open the door and then he becomes a Boomer. There's honestly really no way that you can tell. In fact, actually, to add to that, when Dan and Glabursko were trying this method in addition to mine, they were only ever able to guess it about like once or twice. Now, even though we only played 12 games, the numbers were pretty even across the board. Like I said, there was only 1 time where it was a special infected back-to-back, which was the 2 easy mode attempts. Otherwise, it was 1 of each for every single game mode attempt that we played. So what are we going to call the final myth for this week? Well, in my personal opinion, I am leaning towards the side of busted, just given the fact that we only played 12 games, so we really don't have a lot of data. And two, I also just don't think that Valve thought that deeply about this, and I think instead that they just made it where it was completely just random chance. But the guys believe that they were right with their assumption on their dialogue theory, but I believe that that's just a theory. I don't think that there's any way to really back that up. And so in my opinion, I can't call this confirmed, and at the same time, I also really can't disprove it either. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, you really can only just say that it exists. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label the final myth for this week at plausible. I don't think that, in my opinion, you can predict ever what Church Guy is going to turn into. I think it's literally just down to chance. Plus, also, there's just the possibility of the director changing something on the fly. I don't know if there's something about whether or not that the director will have influence on it, even though we turned it off, because technically Church Guy's not even linked to the director in the first place. But because I didn't make the game and I didn't decide Church Guy's mechanics, I don't know exactly what determines what he'll spawn into. And so I'm just going to say that this myth is plausible and let you guys decide in the comments down below. Alrighty guys, so that's going to be it here for another episode of Myth-Busting Mondays. I do truly hope you guys ended up enjoying, and if you did, please consider dropping a like, comment, subscribe, follow, and all that beautiful stuff. And by the way guys, I would also just like to mention here at the end of the video that on June the 5th, later this year, will be the 100th episode of Myth-Busting Mondays. What I need you guys to do is to submit your most craziest and awesome myths yet. And what you can do is you can end up leaving a comment down below on any Myth-Busting Mondays episode from now up until episode 100, or you can also leave a comment in my Discord server, which is going to be linked down below in the description. All I ask is that somewhere in your comment, please put the hashtag MythBustingMondays episode 100. And by the way, I also would like to clarify that at least on the YouTube side of things, I am aware that YouTube is marking these comments as spam for some reason, just because of the hashtag, which I don't know why, but I promise you guys that I still am keeping track of all your guys' myths. They are just in a separate folder in my YouTube comments, and they are marked in the spam section for some reason, but I'm still receiving all of them, so please continue to submit them my way, because they will end up being read. But yeah guys, with all that being said, I hope you guys ended up enjoying this week's episode of Myth-Busting Mondays, and once again, if you did, please make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe, follow, and all that beautiful stuff. And I hope you guys ended up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTubers you're ever going to see. Thanks for watching guys, I love all of you, and peace out.
Hey meme lords, Jesus here, and you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too, and give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!
John.
Present.
Rochelle.
Here!
Dan. Perfect, looks like we have everybody.